Welcome to Crime Scene X. Today's video will cover 3 terrifying and true horror stories. If you enjoy, please like the video, comment down below, and subscribe for daily scary story uploads. Enjoy. The building had always been there, an old, decrepit warehouse at the edge of town. As kids, we'd tell each other it was haunted, daring each other to approach its rusted doors after dark. The truth, I would learn years later, was much worse than any ghost story. The rumors about the place picked up again when I was in my late 20s. People started going missing. First, it was a homeless man known to seek shelter around the area. Then, a young woman disappeared after her car broke down nearby. A pattern began to emerge, each disappearance in close proximity to that old, dilapidated warehouse. One evening, my curiosity got the better of me. Armed with nothing but a flashlight and a pocket knife, I decided to investigate the place myself. If this was the lair of some twisted individual, I rationalized, then maybe I could find some evidence and bring it to the police. The rusty door creaked loudly as I pushed it open. I clicked on my flashlight and cautiously moved deeper into the dark maze of shelves and crates. My light eventually landed on something unsettling, a makeshift living area, complete with a dirty mattress, canned food, and personal items. I took a few pictures with my phone, thinking this would be evidence enough. But then I heard it, a soft, guttural sound coming from the far corner of the warehouse. My light veered in that direction, revealing a man hunched over something on the ground. It looked up, his face concealed by a hood, but the eyes glinting ominously in the dark. I'd been discovered. My adrenaline kicked in and I bolted. The man was shouting and scrambling after me. I rushed through the labyrinth of crates, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. I fumbled with my pocket knife, ready to defend myself if it came down to it. Then, just as I was reaching the door, I tripped, crashing onto the cold concrete floor. I felt a hand grab my ankle and instinctively kicked as hard as I could, making contact with what felt like a face. The grip loosened just enough for me to scramble up and burst out of the warehouse, slamming the door shut behind me. Gasping for air, I called the police and recounted what had happened, urging them to hurry. When they arrived, they discovered the makeshift living area, but found no sign of the individual I'd encountered. What they did find was far more horrifying, a concealed trapdoor leading to a small underground chamber. Inside were photographs and personal items belonging to the missing individuals. The police launched an extensive investigation, but were unable to identify the person I had seen. Over time, people started to avoid the warehouse altogether, and eventually it was demolished. But the mystery of who, or what, I had encountered that night remained unsolved. I moved away shortly after, partly for a job opportunity, but mostly to escape the memories that haunted me. Sometimes I lie awake at night, pondering who that person could have been and what might have happened if I hadn't escaped. The unsettling part is knowing that whoever it was, they're still out there somewhere. It started with an email. A simple, nondescript message from an address I didn't recognize, with a single word in the subject line. Watch. Curiosity piqued. I clicked it open, expecting the usual spam or phishing attempt. Instead, it was a video file, around 10 seconds long. In it was footage of a forest, the camera shaking as if being carried by someone walking. Nothing else, just trees, foliage, and the distant sound of footsteps. I deleted it, thinking it was a weird mistake or some abstract viral marketing. But the next day, another email arrived. This time the subject read, "Watch again." More footage. This time it was of a street, shot from inside a car. My blood ran cold when I realized it was my street, the camera lingering for a few seconds on my house. I immediately contacted the police. They took my statement and promised to increase patrols around the neighborhood, but without more to go on, there was little they could do. For days, the emails continued, each more unsettling than the last. Clips of shopping malls I frequented, parks where I took my kids, even the office building where I worked. The most terrifying part? In each video, I could see myself, grocery shopping, playing with my children, and stepping out for lunch breaks. I felt like a hunted animal. Despite installing a home security system and being extra vigilant, the dread was inescapable. Someone was watching me, tracking my every move, and they wanted me to know it. Then came the final email. Watch closely. My hand hovered over the mouse, a bead of sweat trickling down my forehead. I clicked the video open. It was dark, the frame filled with shadows, but I could make out a figure standing in a room. As the camera slowly panned, the outline of a door came into view, and then my heart sank in my chest. It was the door to my home office, the one I was sitting behind right now. I whirled around, heart pounding out of my chest. The room was empty. I lunged for the door and locked it, breathing heavily. I immediately called the police, who arrived within minutes. They searched the property but found no one. A forensics team swept the house and found signs of an intrusion. Someone had picked the lock on the back door and had been inside while I was watching the video. Even though I moved my family to a new city and changed all of our routines, the psychological toll has been indelible. The police never identified the person stalking me, and I'm left with the haunting knowledge that someone out there is still watching, always one step ahead, making me question every familiar face in a crowd and every car that drives by. I remember the day he moved in. A moving truck parked next door, and a tall man in his late 40s stepped out. His face was expressionless, as if moving to a new neighborhood was a chore he had done 100 times. I offered a welcoming smile and waved from my porch. He nodded in acknowledgement, his face void of any emotion. Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't shake off the eerie feeling I got from my new neighbor. He rarely came out of his house, and when he did, it was either very early in the morning or late at night. It wasn't just the timing, it was the heavy plastic bags he lugged into his trunk. What could possibly be so heavy? One evening, my dog Bella started growling and barking at the window facing his house. She was usually such a calm dog. My curiosity got the best of me. Peeking through my curtains, I saw him digging in his backyard under the cover of darkness. By the time he was done, he had dug a hole large enough to fit a human body. My stomach churned at the thought. I tried telling myself I was imagining things, letting Hollywood dramatize my sense of reality. But then the news reports began airing. A local woman had gone missing. She was last seen at a grocery store, just a few blocks from our neighborhood. The dots connected themselves in my head. The late-night digging, the heavy bags, the strange aura about him. What if my neighbor was involved? I had no proof, but the nagging gut feeling wouldn't go away. The logical next step was to call the police, but what would I say? My neighbor digs holes at night? That would hardly warrant an investigation. No, I needed evidence. Armed with my smartphone, I decided to sneak into his backyard the next night he went digging. If I could just get a video of him, then perhaps the police would take me seriously. I waited until he picked up his shovel and began digging. When I was sure he was preoccupied, I climbed over the fence, phone in hand. My heart was pounding so loudly I was sure he'd hear it. The camera app was open, and I was ready to press record. But then I tripped on something and let out a gasp. My neighbor froze. Slowly he turned around and our eyes met. I've never seen such a chilling, lifeless gaze. My finger finally hit the record button, but it was too late. He dropped the shovel and began to approach me. My mind screamed at me to run, but my legs wouldn't listen. I was paralyzed with fear. Just then, Bella started barking incessantly from my backyard. It distracted him for a split second, long enough for me to regain control over my legs and run as fast as I could back to my house. I heard him chasing after me, but I didn't dare look back. I made it back home and immediately bolted all the doors and windows. I called the police, and while waiting for them, emailed the video clip to myself as backup. It was dark and grainy, but you could see him holding a shovel near a freshly dug hole. When the police arrived, I showed them the video and told them everything. They searched his property and found not only the hole in the backyard, but also items belonging to the missing woman in his shed. My heart sank. My worst fears were confirmed. He was arrested on suspicion of murder, and as they led him away in handcuffs, he turned to look at me. Even then, his face was emotionless, but his eyes told a different story. They were filled with a sinister promise, as if saying, "This isn't over." Weeks have passed since he was arrested. The missing woman's body was discovered buried in a wooded area a few miles from our neighborhood. As relieved as I am that he's behind bars, I can't shake off the feeling that I've only seen the tip of the iceberg. More unsettling is the thought that there could be others like him out there, seamlessly blended into the fabric of everyday life. Sometimes, when I'm alone in my house, I swear I can still feel his chilling gaze through the walls. as if reminding me that evil isn't confined by prison bars. I know I did the right thing, but I also know I've opened a door that can never be fully closed again. And that's the scariest part of all. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please like the video, comment what you thought, and subscribe for daily uploads.